What's up, y'all? Kevin Kuhn here from Athlete Factors. This is the Athlete Factors podcast. My guest today is strength coach Monte Sparkman. How we doing, sir?
Good, Kevin. Appreciate you coming by. Thanks for having me on this setup. I wasn't really sure what kind of video we were making here when you came in, but no, I'm happy to have you, and welcome to the Freak Factory, to North Richland Hills, and
Awesome.
We like to call this the cave. This is kind of where all the magic happens, and welcome. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, I don't get the opportunity to do too many in person, so this is a treat for me to be able to show up, see the tools and toys you're working with, and see a little bit of another coach's house.
Well, and it really is a house that's lived in.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a lot of fancy chrome and bells and whistles, but the things we have are very useful. The things we have are practical, and not a whole lot of fluff here. So it's definitely lived in.
Gotcha. My grandfather was a carpenter.
There you go.
And he told me quite a few times, like a brand new house that nobody lives in won't last very long, but a house that's physically lived in will last a long time. So all these places that have real fancy stuff, like, that's cool, but I'd rather see a place where there's some blood, sweat, and tears built into
Well, then you've come to the right place, because there's all kinds. Ain't no telling what you're gonna find here. So
that's awesome. So, if you will, let's dive into it. Tell us a little bit about your background, both athletically, academically, and professionally.
Professionally, I like that.
Yeah,
I like that. Growing up, I came from a small town called Burnett, Texas. It's north of Wichita Falls, right on the Texas-Oklahoma border.
Cool.
So if you got to Oklahoma, you went too far. And so grew up there, a small town. We were 4A at the time, Texas High School. Played football all 4 years, did track a couple years, but that's kind of where I found my love for the weight room. Was during that time. We had a great high school coach, Charles Hicks. He was a mountain of a man, and I remember many occasions him going in there, and that's kind of where I got my love for the bench press. It's kind of a joke, but I really do love the bench press. But he had been there repping 405, no big deal.
Wow.
And he played professional football and just a tremendous athlete, and that's what I wanted to be like, and that's where my love for the weight room kind of came in, kind of developed was during that time. And so didn't really like track a whole lot, didn't really gravitate to anything other than the lifting. And so we got powerlifting my senior year. We had a coach, Brad Owen, come in and brought powerlifting, and did that. Was able to qualify for regionals, that 1 year. And again, by today's standards, I wasn't very strong at all, but it was good, And so did that. Got to play a little college football at NAIA school, Baker University in Kansas. Played there 5 years. I use that term loosely. Again, the success that I was able to have athletically, again, goes back to my love for the weight room, because I wasn't the fastest, I wasn't the quickest, I wasn't really wasn't much of anything, but I was halfway strong, and so that success there gave me the little success I had to play in college. Coach Bull, Coach Corbin, I think you know what I'm talking about, and so went to Baker, did that, and then from there, my whole goal post college was to come back to Burke, be a high school powerlifting and D-line coach, and that was kind of my plan. Came back to Burke after undergrad, started grad school right away. Not in exercise science. Like I don't have any formal, what do you call it, scholarly, I guess, training or education,
Yeah.
And I take pride in that, but most of my training comes from under the bar and doing it and talking to people who do it, and and of course reading, but that's where my knowledge came from. I came back and started going to grad school for education, because again, I was going to be a teacher coach. Strength coach wasn't even on the radar. wasn't even on the radar. Met up with a guy named Michael Askew, again, one of the strongest guys that I've been associated with, who had a gym in town and was a former powerlifter in the Army. And that's when I got into powerlifting, got introduced to powerlifting. And so I'm going to grad school. Actually did my first competition. Sorry, Coach Fran, missed my last college banquet to do my first powerlifting meet. If that tells you anything.
Nice. Priorities.
Exactly, right? Exactly. So that was 2003. 2004, I started working at Midwestern State University in their intramurals and wellness program. And so I ran the fitness center there on campus and also did direct sports. It was there that I was introduced to Coach Chili, James Childers, who was their strength coach. And it was kind of then, again, I'm deep into powerlifting. And it was at that point that I'm like, man, maybe I could be a strength coach. You know, I'm still going to grad school, again for education, working full time. And the seed kind of gets planted there, you know, hey, you know, this might be something I want to do, but I still want to teach you coach. This was, you know, when West Side was really, really kind of in their heyday. And I'll be honest, you know, it was chains and boards and bands. And, you know, if you were NSCA, you know, that you weren't really, you know, all the academia stuff was kind of out the window. You know, it was West Side 100%. And whatever, and you know, whatever Lou said was gospel,
That's
you
right.
know. And so certifications really weren't on my radar. You know, what do those guys know?
Yeah.
And it was, you know, looking back, you know, we had a great resource. You know, Coach Hoff, Greg Hoff, was at Midwestern State. Lon Kilgore was at Midwestern State. And, you know, we had these tremendous resources, and I was still very ignorant on that side of it. And I was, you know, again, I was very much, you know, conjugate all the way. And
A little aside,
yeah.
I wanted to do my PhD with Dr. Hoff.
Yeah.
When he was at West Virginia.
Yeah, because he left there and went to West Virginia. Exactly.
I met up with him at a conference actually in Columbus, and I said, "Hey, I want to do my PhD with you because I want to teach endurance athletes how to Olympic lift,
Yeah.
and also I want to be able to periodize carbohydrates and periodize the diet in the same way that, you know, we periodize training, and that's what you're doing." And he was like, "That's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know how much longer I'm gonna be here, so keep looking." Sorry, man.
Yeah.
I was like, but
Yeah, that's good he did that, though.
Yeah.
So saying, hey, come on, and then boom.
Exactly.
You know, a month or two later, he's out. No, that's good. That's a lot about him.
so yeah.
And we would have, you know, just small conversations. Again, but I was still very much, you know, in my infancy as far as understanding really what it meant to be a strength coach and what it was beyond just getting really, really strong. So painting a picture here, 2005, still there, 2006, meet my wife actually at Midwestern State. Before that, we had met briefly. They said, "Where do you meet?" The weight room, the gym. And I said, "Oh yeah, we kind of did. We actually met at a bench press competition." So they're like, so it fits perfectly,
It's meant to
right?
be.
So we met, and I know you don't want to hear a whole lot about this, but we met. Then she comes to the gym. And Midwestern forgot her ID, and I was like, "Hey, I know who you are. You know, come on in." Sorry, Joey. So then we meet, and anyway, we end up getting married, going on our honeymoon. Coach Bill Dawkey, who was the head coach at Burke, says, "Hey, you know, I got a job for you." I said, "Great, I'm going on a cruise on our honeymoon. I'll call you when I get back." So get back and again got my first coaching job back in my hometown. I was coaching middle school there. Still very, very heavy into powerlifting at that point. My wife was in the military at the time, and so she was stationed there at the base. Did that for a year, and then they said, "Hey, it's time to move." So we moved to Virginia. And that was really, you know, I credit a lot of my development, a lot of my growth to my time at VMI, Virginia Military Institute, under Coach Jimmy Cole, Jay Johnson, Jimmy Whitten, Phil Sabatini. Those guys were tremendous mentors for me on the academia side. And then really, you know, they were my education, you know, because again, I wasn't formally taught. everything I had learned, I had read or again experienced, and here I am at the college level as an instructor teaching other cadets this, and so I was very much kind of learning, as they were, kind of the whole physiology, the science, and the chemistry behind strength conditioning, behind physical development, and we got to spend 3 years there, and again Jay would have conversations back and forth all the time about who's a better athlete, the 400-pound bencher or the 400-pound cleaner, and of course I'm like the bench presser all the way, 405. Excuse me, why not? He's like, Monty, no, you're stupid. Think about the force created and the displacement. And I'm like, Jay, no, cleans are dumb, And so, bench squat deadlift and because again, I'm powerlifting all the way,
Yeah.
We actually wrote an article, Jay, Phil, myself, and Phil, Phil was a football strength coach who is a tremendous Olympic weightlifter. I mean, the dude's, built very, very well. And so he's this high level, national caliber Olympic weightlifter. And I'm, just this meathead powerlifter. And so three of us got together and wrote an article for one of the conferences where Phil and I kind of go back and forth defending, which
one's better?
Yeah, powerlifting or Olympic lifting,
Nice.
Which is kind of an age-old debate, yeah. And so from there, again, like I said, Jay was a tremendous mentor for me, and again, just being able to shadow him, because all those guys were strength coaches at the college level. Jay was at Virginia Tech, Coach Cole had been there for a long, long time. Jimmy Whitten was at Virginia Tech, so they've got this tremendous collegiate strength background, and here I am just this meathead who likes to bench press and squat, and kind of deadlift a little bit, not very well. So that was really, those 3 years were very pivotal in me taking off the blinders. And it's not just, hey, powerlifting, west side. It's, it's okay to Olympic lift. It's okay to do kettlebells. It's okay to have a variety of training tools. And again, understand the holistic approach to athletic development. So fast forward a little bit, we were there for 3 years, and the wife ended up separating, came back to Texas, and it was, okay, this was 2010. I was like, okay, I'm 30 years old. I want to be a strength coach. What do I do? Ended up getting a middle school coaching position. And so 2011, that was 2010, 2011 took my CSCS. So NHSSCA is not bad anymore. I'm on board. Got my CSCS, passed it the first time, pretty proud of that. Again, no formal education like that. So I feel pretty good about that. Yeah. 2012, again, 32 years old, trying to get an internship because again, that's how they say to do this stuff. Emailed a lot of coaches, and the one guy who emailed me back was Frank Winchard at University of North Texas. Frank said, "Hey, I'd love to meet up," and I knew I'd met the right guy when he said, "Hey, let's go meet at this barbecue joint and let's talk." So Frank and I broke bread. We ate barbecue. Nice. Really, really good place. And he said, be here Monday morning. And so here I am, 32 years old, and I'm setting up fields, and I'm taking hurdles, and I'm wiping down equipment, and again, just another humbling but tremendous learning experience. That summer was the most fun I've had in a really long time. On the training side, just he welcomed me with open arms. He and I are really about the same age, and he could have been like, who is this slap? This guy doesn't really.
Late to the game. Yeah,
he's just. Yeah. And we had guys come and go. There were a couple guys that didn't last the whole summer, and I'm thinking, man, what are you doing? This is a tremendous opportunity, and you're blowing it. And I wanted to be there as much as possible, and it just so happened to work out because I was off that summer. I had a job, had a good pay. It wasn't like I was fresh out of college and needed to have that income. I was able to volunteer. And so I did that again, learned a tremendous amount from Frank and from Dave and from Sean, Coach Soroka. I mean, again, and those guys, I'll never forget it. Again, another sign, I guess, that I was in the right place. Coach Mack, Dan McCarney, first day he comes down, shirt off, sweating, and just run probably 8 million stairs. He's like, "Hey, I'm Dan McCarney. Nice to meet you. Thank you for coming, to North Texas, and thank you for your help. And I'm glad you're here." Again, Division I head football coach. Coach Mack has won a lot of games. Doesn't know me from Adam.
Mm-hmm.
Says a lot.
Yeah,
says a lot. So fast forward again. Tremendous experience with Frank. Frank's still one of my really good friends and mentors to this day. 2013, I come to the high school level here at Richland, and again, I got to meet a tremendous strength coach in Jake Johnson. He was Jed Cates was our head football coach. He was Jed's strength coach here, and again, it's kind of same deal. I come in, just a guy with some success, some background. Mm-hmm. I guess I should back up. When I was at VMI, we started the powerlifting team, and I was able to have some lifters, do some, a couple national champions. Mm-hmm. So and again, I had a pretty, decent powerlifting record myself. Mm-hmm. Coming back to it, did some cool stuff. Mm-hmm. And so again, I feel like I had, kind of some skins on the wall, but again, Jake welcomed me with open arms, and he's one of my best friends.
Don't be modest here. Tell us a little bit about your squat and bench numbers.
Yeah. Well, I just in 2009, I squatted 1,000 pounds, and at that time was I think a top 10 total. So
that's big.
Yeah, and I mean, I am proud of it, but that's not, just because you have success, and I think coaches need to hear this, just because you're a heck of an athlete doesn't make you a good coach, and people confuse athleticism or athletic success with knowledge, and I don't think that's true. Mm-hmm. Just because I can do X, Y, Z doesn't mean I can teach you to do X, Y, Z. It just means I can.
Yep.
And so we have to prove ourselves, through our athletes that we know how to coach, that we know how to program and do those things. Because again, just because I can run fast and jump high, or because I have a certain body fat percentage, doesn't mean that I can get you there, or you can get me there, vice versa. So, mm-hmm. So anyway, again, coming in, again, it could have went, a completely different way, but again, Jake welcomed me, opened me with open arms. Again, one of my best friends. 2014, Jake left, and that's when I took the reins. At that time, Jake was here. I would take a couple sports, baseball being one of the first sports, Coach Chuck Wells, to recognize that I had a certain skill set and say, hey, would you come and help our guys? And so I did, and then softball and soccer for a while, but really in 2014, when Jake left, he went to be head football coach. That's when I kind of stepped in the role of strength and conditioning coach, and now, hey, it's it's go time, and trying to put my impact on that, and my fingerprint, and even then, excuse me, and even then, people think I've been doing this thing a long time. I mean, 2014 isn't that long ago. I mean, it really isn't. And so, I mean, you've done this 10, 15 years, and it feels like it sometimes. Yeah. But at the end of the day, man, I'm still, I've got less than 10 years doing this thing, and I've just been really, really lucky to have some tremendous experiences, tremendous mentors, and that's allowed me to have kind of the success that I've had, because I still feel like I'm learning every day. I still feel like, I'm screwing up every day, making mistakes every day, and so always learning from those. But so that's kind of a long roundabout way of how I got here. I've been here 7 years now, and each year we've gotten a little bit better. Each year our program's evolved more and more, and so like I said, I just trying to not screw up.
Hey, well, if you're not making mistakes, then you're not trying to get as much as you can out of your athletes, and you're not learning. So
no doubt.
You kind of
no doubt.
And sometimes it's hard to learn something from being successful all the time.
And that's the other thing, you know, you talk about successful and having success as a high school strength coach, it's kind of a double-edged sword. And what I mean by that is the great thing about high school kids is their training age for the most part 0, right? Mm-hmm. So you can throw, you know, BOSU balls and towels in there and say, hey, come back in 6 weeks and test them again, they're going to get stronger.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
Or you could have this fantastical, perfect, laid out macrocycle, mesocycle, micros, and they're going to get stronger.
Yep.
And so how do you determine, well, hey, was that good? Was that bad? And you know, I think that's where we have to be careful as high school coaches, mm-hmm. because the good thing is everything works.
Yeah, Dan John says everything works for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But then what?
Well, but the bad thing is everything works.
Exactly.
You know, and so, you know, it's one of those things where you really got to be careful about how we do this, because, you know, you could really affect them the rest of their life, you know, in a very negative way.
For sure.
And so, you know, I take this job very seriously, and one that I have a lot of pride in, you know, because, you know, we do try to set these kids up to have success, you know, post high school, whether it's going to college or whether it's, you know, going to college or going to the workforce, you know, because we've all met those athletes who are broken, and I've broken some athletes. I mean, I think we all, you know, have cracked a few eggs trying to make that omelet, you know, and I'm not opposed to saying that, you know, but obviously those become less and less, you know, as we get more experienced, and I think you have to be objective in how you look at your training, and not hey, this is what we're doing and how we're doing it. We've done it this way, or I did this at the college level, so this is how we're going to do it. I mean, you have to be progressive in how you set things up.
For sure. No, I think along those lines, you've got to address the athlete right where they're at, and if you're trying to lay a collegiate level program on top of a middle school athlete, like, sorry, they're not going to be able to handle that.
You know, and you bring up a really good point, because there is still this gross need for qualified strength coaches, athletic performance coaches at the high school level. And, you know, in a lot of ways, the high school coach, I get it. Hey, so-and-so runs this offense, we're going to run this offense. So-and-so runs this defense. Well, so-and-so does this program. Well, dang it, if it's good enough for Clemson, well, we're going to do it here.
Yes.
Yancey does it at Texas, well, that's what we're going to do here. But that's not where our athletes are. That's not where our athletes are. And so your programs have to be layered. They have to be developmental. They have to be set up in a manner to meet them, like you said, to meet them where they are. Because if you don't, then they might survive the program, but again, you don't know what 2, 3, 4 years down the road looks like, and have you burned the steak, so to speak. I'm talking steak like meat, you know, because I like to eat, and I relate everything to food. If you get on my Instagram and social media on a Sunday or Saturday, there's a good chance there'll be a steak on there, you know. So, you know, you hear the term slow cook them. And that's something that I've adopted. I think I first heard that back in the early 2010s, you know, with Kaz and those guys at Baylor. They were talking about slow cook them. You know, don't be in a hurry. You know, let that thing simmer. You know, which is tough, because, you know, you've got those outlier athletes that you want to turn it up. Hey, what can you do? Yeah. You know,
hey coach, I want some more. What else can I do? And you're like,
and so you have to think about, am I doing something for my ego, to feed my ego, or am I doing this because this is what that athlete needs? And it's a constant give and take. It's a constant struggle, you know. Again, we just had our tree trunk Thursday. Sometimes we squat on Thursdays. We call it tree trunk Thursdays, and we had an athlete who's like, Coach, I want more. Okay. First rep was good. Second rep was wonky. Rack the weight. Coach, I can do another one. I don't care. Rack the weight. Your technique broke. We're done. Yeah. And so, you know, whereas if I was coaching for me, let's get another rep. You can do it. You know, toughen up. You know, fight through it. You know, well, you know, we were talking about Baylor and Jeremy Hefner and Melton and those guys. You know, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And Jeremy uses that the credit card analogy, and you can bend that credit card, and you can bend it again. Maybe you've heard this, but at some point that credit card's going to break. that credit card's going to break, and so again, the slower the temperature, the less likely we are to break that athlete, And so again, we have to remind ourselves, especially in this day and age of social media, hey, is this going to get me likes, or are we putting this up there because, hey, this athlete did something tremendous and we want to honor the athlete, or is this, because I want to boost my following?
Yeah.
So, and again, it's a constant struggle. It really is. Because I want to be liked.
For sure.
Do you like me? Follow me. So yeah. And again, I'll be the first to admit I'm not the perfect guy in the weight room. If you come in my weight room, you're going to see things that are really good and see things we need to work on. But we're always striving to kind of improve on that.
Gotcha. That's awesome. So, gotta grab my notes here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about why you love being a strength coach. What's like when you wake up in the morning and you're like, I could roll over and go back to bed, or I could go in and hit some weights and coach some athletes. Like, what's your why? What gets you up?
I think the coolest thing about my job is getting to share my passion with other athletes. I've learned so much from the weight room. There are so many different qualities, and confidence being number one, that you gain from the weight room, but you learn work ethic, you learn discipline, you learn consistency. The other thing I like about the weight room is that it's black and white. I know when I get done with a session, did I get better or not? That's not always the case with athletics. I ended football practice, well, did I get better? I make more tackle, yeah, but I jumped off sides twice, or I dropped this pass, but when you leave that training session, did I do more reps? Did I lift more weight? Did I jump more inches? Did my time go down so many tenths of a second? And I think seeing that consistently it breeds confidence. And so I think being able to share that and watch those athletes' confidence go up is a big part of why I do it. I do it because I want to see kids and I want to help them do things they've never done. How cool is it when that kid lifts a weight they didn't think they could do? How cool is it when they jump a height they didn't think they could jump? How cool is it when they run a time they didn't think they could run? I had a former athlete text me the other day. He's in college. Coach, I ran this. It's awesome, man. They're excited about it. And he's confident, and so being able to share my passion, being able to help kids get more confident in their lives, in their training, in their sports, to me is a big part of why I do what I do. I would say, let me check my notes over here. I took notes, by the way, because I want to make sure that
don't leave anything out.
Yeah, that I hit everything, and then obviously, performance is what we're after, but we're also trying to train the whole athlete. We're trying to instill in them qualities that are going to help them be better husbands, fathers, mothers, wives, just better people. And I think you can do that a lot with the weight room and with the performance side of your athletic program. And so that's a big deal for me. And I think what we try to do here is when these kids leave our program, yeah, they're bigger, faster, stronger, but they're better people. So
yeah, I think the weight room can be a very, very useful coach to teach you all about discipline, time management, dealing with physical, emotional, psychological struggle. And
stop right there, because that's something, and I feel like I'm mentally unstable a lot of times, but what always brings me back grounded is the weight room. And there was something on social media, the weight room is not therapy, lifting is not therapy, go see a specialist. And it is therapy. there are endorphins and chemicals released, dopamine released, that makes you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
For sure.
You know, and so I think absolutely, you know, that can be a huge part of somebody's daily routine is to kind of get them centered back and leveled, so to speak, in life. And I think, you know, exercise is a great tool to do. I know we're saying the weight room, but we're talking, you know, running, you know, anything physical,
Mm-hmm.
you know, anything physical. Absolutely, man. You know, it very much is therapy, and I think it's huge.
For sure. Like, you want a healthy brain, you got to get the body moving.
Yeah, there's somebody who's done a study on it. I'm sure. I just, you know, again, it's completely under the bar, anecdotal.
Yeah.
I get done training, I feel good. Well,
Yeah.
that's all I need. I don't need some study that says, well, it releases extra dopamine. And
Mm-hmm. No, one of my clients a couple weeks ago showed me a study where individuals who were medicated for depression, if they walked, I think it was 3 times a week for 45 minutes, they could get off their meds.
Wow. Yeah, there you go. I mean,
So-
what else do you need?
Yeah, just
You know?
get up and move.
Yeah,
And-
absolutely.
And the lessons that you'll learn doing stuff that makes you really uncomfortable
Yeah.
are only going to help you down the road. So.
Excuse me. A little rumble there. It's a chocolate milk. Chocolate milk.
So, tell us a little bit about the differences between the way you train personally and how you train your athletes, or is it all the same?
Yeah, no, it absolutely is not the same, and that's what our head coach will tell you. When I went in and said, hey, you know, do I get to finally do this now? And he's like, yeah. And I had to convince him, you know, hey, we're not going to be powerlifting meatheads. You know, yes, that's my passion. It's who I identify as. It's the way I train, but that's not necessarily the best way to train athletes.
Mm.
Can we take elements from it? Sure. Like, our philosophy is very much rooted in maximal strength.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you need a certain amount of requisite maximal strength to display power.
Mm-hmm.
To display endurance. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you want to run farther, get stronger.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna run faster, get stronger.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's a big part of what we do, but it's not the whole part. And so I guess the first part to that is, how do I train? Well, I've been a conjugate, quote unquote, West Side disciple since 2003.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't train West Side. I know people train West Side or with Lou in Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
I have been able to go there twice. I'm pretty proud of that, you know.
It's a cool place.
It's magical. It's absolutely magical. And, you know, so I've tried to adapt that training to my own training. Does it look exactly like that? No, it doesn't, you know. I just wrapped up a training block where I don't do a ton of dynamic effort work. I'm pretty explosive naturally.
Mm.
And so I've tried to err on the side of heavier straining because I still, you know, I'll be 40 in June. I need to learn how to strain.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, so I have a max effort day. I have a dynamic effort day-ish, but it's more an accessory day,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And, you know, for upper and lower, you know, so my training split right now is, it used to be Big Bench Sunday, those of you who follow me. I've since switched that to Big Squat Sunday. And really the only reason is so I can get training partners there. Because if they all bench, they're going to show up on bench day, but I'll say, hey, everybody's squatting today. Well, half of them don't show up. So I tricked you. You guys bench and I'll squat. And then I've got spotters.
Yeah.
You know, so that's Sunday. And then I'll do a speed session, speed upper session on Tuesday. And then if you want to call it a dynamic effort lower, that's on Thursday. And then it is kind of nice. You know, I'll get that pump in on Friday. I do a big bench Friday. And that's my split, you know. And I've gone with a 3-day split. I've done a 4-day split. But it's always kind of gone back to those conjugate roots. 5-3-1 is a really, really excellent program. You know, Jim Windler wrote that.
Mm-hmm.
He put me in the book. I'm still waiting for money from that, Jim. But yeah, you know, I mean, I've that's kind of been my wheelhouse for I guess what is this, 2020, so almost 17 years.
Wow.
You know, I've been rooted in the conjugate world.
Mm-hmm.
Now with my athletes, I was fortunate when I interned in North Texas with Frank. He introduced me to Joe Ken and the tier system, and that to me makes the most sense for training not just high school athletes but any athletes. Athletics is a whole body activity.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an upper activity. It's not a lower activity. It's not a light or heavy. I mean, it encompasses all aspects of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so your training better be set up in that way to give your athletes the best shot for success. So, so we train. We've done a 4-day split. We've actually on a 4-day split right now with our heavier guys, just because we need a little more strength, you know. But primarily we live in that 3-day split template, you know, where Monday or Tuesday will be our total day. I do it a little bit different than Joe. We squat on Fridays, that we call Big Squat Friday, with the upper body in the middle, typically on a Wednesday or Thursday. And we do that for a couple of different reasons. Number one, I like to have some separation in between my total and lower days. Mm-hmm. We're still going to have a squat variation on that total day. So if we go on Monday, I want to have ample time to hit it again on Friday, you know, and that comes again from my conjugate background where you want 72 hours in between, you know. So we try to do that with our guys. And so Monday typically or Tuesday is a total body day. Thursday, Wednesday is our upper body day, and of course we squat heavy on Friday. And also, and I'm using a football analogy here, but in the off season we want to keep Fridays relevant. We want to keep Fridays as our game day, so to speak. So it's not, hey, we're doing upper body on Friday to coast into the weekend like my training is. It's, hey, no, it's get after it. You know, Fridays are important. You know, let's win Friday.
Yep.
To keep that intensity in the off season. So
that competitive mental focus for that day. You don't want that to be a relaxing off day.
Exactly. And again, we do that because when it cranks up in August and September, we play on Fridays. And to me, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Rather than, you know, House does it on, you know, Big Squat Wednesday. And I think he said in a book or a podcast where, you know, that was like the most productive day of the week. And so they do it on Wednesday. And, but for us, you know, it just fits. And, you know, that's another thing is, does that mean that I'm right and he's wrong, or he's wrong and I'm right? No, it's just different. And, you know, as coaches, as professionals, there so many people want to say I'm right and you're wrong. It's just different, you know. None of us are in the same situation. None of us have identical experiences or athletes, and so our things better look different. You know,
there's too many variables for there to be, you know, this cookie cutter approach.
Exactly. But then again, you got to be educated and you got to have those tools. If all you got's a hammer, then all you're going to have is a hammer. When you need a screw, that may, you know, it may not be what you need. And so having a diversified toolbox, you know, whether it's Olympic lifting, powerlifting, kettlebells, body weight, you know, whatever it is, you know, try to diversify yourself as much as possible. Again, everybody thinks, you know, I'm this powerlifting meathead. In a lot of ways I am, but you don't see that in my training. You know, you'll go in and you'll see a kettlebell. You'll go in, you'll see a goblet squat. You'll go in, you know, we do Olympic lifts, you know. And the second part of that is if you're going to do those things, then you better be trained in them. You know, you better go and get as much knowledge as you can about those movements to give your athletes the best chance for success and not set them up to get injured. You know, so yeah, so my training and my athletes training you might see similar movements at certain times, but that's really where that ends. Yeah, it's well, you know, because Jed's like, well, they're going to be, you know, powerlifting meatheads. Oh, no, they're not, Jed. You know, I'm not an athlete. You know, I'm a powerlifter. So that's how I train. But these are athletes, you know, they're going to train in an athletic manner. And for me, tier system has really checked those boxes for me. And again, grateful that I learned that from Frank. Frank got to intern under House for a while. And, you know, that's probably the biggest thing I learned in North Texas was, you know, how to organize training and how to set it up for an athletic model, not bench squat deadlift model, you know, so.
So
how we doing on time?
You need to be done at 1:45? We're about 1:30.
Yeah, we're good. We ain't even through half of this shit.
Hey, all right,
we might take an interim.
Okay.
We'll let them roll, and then you might have to edit this out. It's good.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, let me come back in. This is good stuff.
It's fun, right? Yeah. You just tell me when we need.
This is good stuff.
We need to take a break.
We'll take a break at 1:45.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
So, what is the most fun thing, or what are you most passionate about teaching your athletes?
I like to teach them the why behind it. Because that to me links that connection to, what am I trying to say? I guess it's a bridge from sport to weight room or field or whatever it is. Hey, why are we doing this?
Mm-hmm.
And being able to explain that to them, hey, we're doing this because on the field you're doing this. And then watching that light bulb go off and go, oh, yeah, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Again, because, I have to fight that persona constantly of, we're just trying to get big and strong. We're trying to get big and strong. We're trying to look like you. No, you're not.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're not.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, when I can give them that why, when I can make that light bulb go off in their head, this is why we're stopping on the box, or this is why we do jumps, or this is why we're throwing. That to me is really, really fun, and having them make those connections. And then it just gives them, more buy-in, and it makes them work a little bit harder, because now they understand, hey, we're doing this because it's going to help me jump higher. Mm-hmm. It's going to help me, make that tackle better, or have more stamina, late in the game. That's really, really big,
I think being able to show an athlete, like, here's the cause and effect.
Right.
Like, when you can translate that, that scenario for them, like, hey, when you're at this point in the game and this is happening, do you want to be able to do this? Yes? Okay, well then here's where this fits in. And it's like, okay, perfect. I want to be able to make that play. So
I better do X, Y, Z.
Exactly.
To give me the biggest chance.
Yep.
And then, of course, going back to, instilling confidence in them and just watching them, again, hit that PR. I get excited. I get emotional,
mm-hmm.
Because that's our job as a coach. I think the Latin word, I don't know what it means, but it's something like to walk beside.
Mm.
And so that's what we're trying to do as a coach is to walk with our athletes and, again, take them from one level to the next.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't leave here a bigger, stronger, faster, better person, then I feel like we missed the boat.
Mm-hmm.
And watching those developments happen in real time, to me, is again, it's really fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's really fun. And it's always fun when those guys come back and girls come back and want to train. Hey, can we train? Absolutely, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That's really, really fun.
Yeah. When they've not only seen the difference that the training makes, but they trust you enough to come back and get more training from you. Like, that's
absolutely.
That's
absolutely.
really rewarding.
That's the biggest compliment. And again,
yeah.
Or having these guys come back from college and say, "Man, coach, it's not like it was here."
Yeah.
I said, number one, I'm saying, "I told you so."
Yeah.
But number two, I'm like, yeah, but sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees.
That's true.
Because they're in it, and you don't know what you got till
you're in a different situation.
Until you're in a different situation. And so it's just cool to have those affirmations come back from time to time.
For sure.
And that makes it fun.
Oh yeah.
It makes it fun. But the biggest thing, watching those guys and girls, do things. Whether it's a girl hitting a 95-pound clean for the first time, or a boy cleaning 315.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the same because they've never done it.
Yeah.
And then that just creates another level in their confidence. The next time, next time, hey, it's 115. Next time, it's 320 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It just gives them more confidence. I've got 2 daughters. I can't wait to get them training because I know the positive effects it's going to have.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to have on them. The thing I like about powerlifting so much is that it's just you. Mm-hmm. You're walking out in a skin tight singlet for everybody to see.
Yep.
Good or bad.
Yep.
And you're out there, and you can't help but be confident from that.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're doing something a lot of people don't want to do or afraid to do.
Yep.
Maybe they want to, but they're afraid. Oh, what are they going to think about me? What, get out and do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then watch how your life changed. changes from that, because confidence, I think, can open a lot of doors for you. I think it'll open a lot of doors. So
for sure, that's so true. Like getting out of your comfort zone, doing stuff that other people aren't willing to do. Like that reminds me. So my parents were missionaries. So when I was growing up, we were traveling quite a bit here in the U.S.
Yeah.
Building financial support, and then we went to the Philippines.
Wow.
And then coming back to the U.S. College was in my hometown, but grad school was, in Waco. So I had to move to a whole new city, didn't know anybody. And when you're putting yourself in positions where you're uncomfortable, and the actions that you take and the things that you do have profound, impacts.
Absolutely.
Like that it's really healthy. It's good to do that.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
And when you're able to not only do that personally, but be an example to your athletes, and when they see someone else doing that, and they see how that affects, your life, and they're like, oh, okay, so I should be brave because, Coach Sparkman's doing this.
And that's another good point. I feel like as a strength coach, as an athletic performance coach, I think you got to compete in something. I'm not saying you got to go out and be, world's strongest power lifter, strongman. That's not what I'm saying. But I think if your athletes know that you're training, number one, they got to train. But number two, I think you got to compete. Competition adds value to your training. If you're not training to compete, you're just working out. And I think we should, if we're trying to instill this quality in our athletes, and we should be doing it too. And again, it doesn't have to be even strength related. Compete in something. Compete in something. And I just think it goes a long way with buy-in. I think it goes a long way with getting those kids on board with what you're doing, because they know that you have a goal. They know that you're living that in your life, and it makes it easier for them to come on.
I agree. So you gotta set goals, and my good friend and mentor Ambrose Coleman, he says you gotta risk it for the biscuit, which means you gotta set lofty goals.
Yeah, I like that, because I like biscuits. A little gravy on there. Yeah. I like biscuits.
Setting easy goals, like it's sometimes you got to set a goal that's way, way past your comfort zone, and just see how close you can get.
Absolutely.
So, and be willing to fail, because you'll probably surprise yourself with how well you do it when you're setting lofty goals. So,
that's a great point.
Yeah. So, to sum all of that up, what's your take-home message for anybody watching and listening? How can we all be better athletes?
I think the cop-out answer is to get stronger. I hate to say it, but just I think it's true. I think getting stronger goes a long ways in life. Coach Ray Ellsworth at Texas A&M, she said strength fixes a lot. And I believe that. And does it have to always be physical strength? Not necessarily. It can be emotional strength. There are different kinds of strength out there, but I think anytime you can make that steel just a little bit harder, that it's going to serve you well across all aspects of life, not just in the weight room, or not just on the field, or not running or whatever, but just in general. We're all going to have things happen in our lives that we're going to have to overcome. We're all going to have adversity. And I think developing a stronger resolve and developing a strength-based mentality that's going to allow you to push through some things, during those dark times, during those uncomfortable times that maybe someone who doesn't have that background isn't going to be able to do. And so, it's one of those deals where, it's a cop-out answer, but I think it really, get stronger. Get stronger, whether it's whether it's more push-ups, whether it's pull-ups, whether it's 1,000-pound squat. Get stronger, and I think your life's gonna change for the better. I really do.
That just made me think of another conversation that I had with Ambrose Coleman one time, and we were kind of throwing around this question: are we strength coaches or are we strengths coaches? Are we building strength in multiple aspects of athleticism, but also emotionally, and also academically, and also are we strong in every aspect of life, and are we instilling strengths into our athletes? So I think that's one of those things that we can kind of get pigeonholed sometimes into our profession.
Absolutely. That's one of those, again, I feel like I have to fight a lot of stereotypes sometimes because of the way I look and what I do and who I am. But you're right. We could probably sit here and come up with 8 different better names for what we do than strength and conditioning coach, because it does encompass so much more than lifting and running, or maxes and PRs, and there is so much more to what we do than the weight room. And the great ones are able to balance all of those almost simultaneously, because sometimes we are that father, sometimes we are that mother, sometimes we're that hammer that they need to hear some tough love. Sometimes, we have to give a little, life advice about, hey, I want to do this. Well, what do you think? Well, what do you think? Sometimes we're a counselor. Sometimes we just gotta listen.
Yeah.
Hey, I just, because our kids are going through, who knows what these days. I mean, we got a lot of broken kids and come from broken families. And the one constant that we have is that room, is that field, barbell weighs 45 no matter where you go. The Henry Rollins quote, 200 pounds is always 200 pounds. That might be the only consistent thing in our life. So, we do wear a bunch of hats, and like I said, the great ones do it well. And it's not just bars and plates. There's so much more that goes into it. So much more.
Yeah, one of my clients, when I was working corporate fitness, one time said, "Hey, I don't really care what we do training wise. I don't really have any training goals. Just you're cheaper than a therapist, so just listen."
There you go, and that's so true. And that's so true. We are. It's kind of like that hairstylist. Where you go and you sit in the chair. Of course, I don't have to deal with that anymore. but yeah, man. And I would say, if you do like to train, if you should train, but you should train with a group. Don't train alone. Training. I want to bring as many people on this journey as I can, and it's not to be done alone or in a void or with your headphones on or in front of a camera. Training is just as much a social event as it is an exercise event. I think you got to have, great training partners and I was listening, again, going back to Lou, I was listening to Lou yesterday. I tweeted about the first thing a man needs is to have a great power rack. The second part of that is the second thing a man needs is great training partners. And I think,
Yeah, that quote that you posted, what was it? Show me your training partners and I'll show you what kind of lifter you are.
Yep.
Yeah, that's powerful.
It's huge, and that's the things we try to instill in our athletes. It's not, I'm the coach, and we have a coaching staff, and that's our title coach, but there's only 10 or 12 or one of us. There are 50 or 60 athletes. There are 50 or 60 coaches in here who can coach. And so that's the other thing we try to do, and that's what I tried to do when I was at VMI, is to make our lifters independent. Some coaches want their athletes to depend on them. I don't want them to depend on me. I want them to go anywhere, perform any lifts. We're talking powerlifting here, but I want them to be able to go to a meet and do it themselves. They don't need me to go, "Hey coach, can you grab my knees?" or "Hey coach, can you do this?" No, become independent. I think that's I think that's huge. I think that's a huge quality that we have to develop in our athletes, is that sense of independence, because we're not going to be there. You know, we can't be there to hold their hand. And yeah, it makes us feel good when they need us. Mm-hmm. Hey, coach, can you do this? You know, and again, the thing I get asked, like, hey, coach, can you spot me? Can you spot me? There's 30 other guys in here. Pick somebody else. Mm-hmm. I'm not always going to be there. It's not because I don't want to. Yeah, I'd love to go spot everybody. But again, there's only one of me. Mm-hmm. You know, the biggest thing that I want my athletes to leave here with is I want them to be able to walk in any other coach's weight room and be proficient. Mm. You know, because they're not all going to train like me, and I'm okay with that.
Right.
But they should at least be able to have that foundational knowledge of movements that they can go in and pick that up, you know, pretty fast and be adaptable to whatever training environment they get put into. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's the biggest thing is to give them a sense of independence, you know. Mm-hmm. So, what were we talking about?
I don't know. We're just
okay.
Jumping all over. It's evolving.
Yeah, we are. It is evolving,
which is good.
It's kind of like our template. It's evolving. That's a whole nother conversation.
Well, that's probably a good place to take a little break, and then we'll jump back in with a couple more questions.
Awesome. Ready to break.
Sweet. Alrighty. So we're back.
We're back.
We just finished up a session with, was it football players?
Yeah, so we just finished up our freshman, we call it our developmental group, our freshman athletic period with about 50 freshman football players.
Yeah.
And
it's pretty awesome.
Just to kind of give a rundown of that, it was our lower day. Again, tree trunk Thursday. Tomorrow's a half day for us, so you know we got to get our squatting in. And today, our lower movement was front squat. We front squat to a box, and we do that for a lot of different reasons. But the biggest one being consistent depth. Mm-hmm. You know, as you know, if tell an athlete to squat, they're gonna squat as high as they can, and so you know we want to have great technique, you know, through a great range of motion. So I did that. We paired that with hurdle mobility and push-ups, and then we did called our RDL complex, where we went through lifting the bar off the ground, called lift-offs, and then we went through our power position progression, where it was 3 different positions. One just above the knee, or I'm sorry, high, and then above the knee, and then below the knee. Mm-hmm. Again, just teaching those movement patterns in a safe way that's progressive and broken down and systematic. You know, we don't Olympic lift our freshmen. I like them to get strong with the deadlift and specifically the trap bar and the front squat, and I do that for a lot of reasons. But the biggest two being, if you can start correctly and you can finish correctly, meaning start pulling off the ground, lift off, trap bar, deadlift, finishing correctly, meaning catch it low, front squat. The jump or the middle part tends to take care of itself, in my opinion. I am USA weightlifting certified, so that, you know, I know this isn't their necessarily top-down approach, but it's what works for me in that I mesh a little bit of powerlifting because I still want to load them. I think we can load them, and I like the trap bar for that. I think it gives them a better position, and it is safer, in my opinion. It's easier for them to pick up. And then with the front squat, you know, and they're doing this after going through our extensive Block Zero program, which we run through football season. You know, so during the end season they do all Block Zero, and then we start them. We come back with our trap bar and our front squat with the lower body, and for us it works. You know, again, it may not be for anybody else, but for us it works. You know, and it worked really well. We were able to get. We've now got a trap bar for every platform, so again, there's no sharing per se.
You don't have to wait for somebody else.
Exactly. So, again, that's just one example of how you would marry your equipment up with kind of your philosophy. You know, so that's what we did. Again, it took us about 30 minutes, and we were done. We were out of there.
Yeah. So a couple things I noticed that I really liked was the timing system that you have set up.
Yeah, so we use a program called Rack Performance. We've been using Rack for about 3 or 4 years now. And really what it does is it allows me to coach. It allows me to work.
Frees you up.
It frees me up to work the room. I'm not blowing a whistle. I don't like whistles. But again, it takes eyes off of a timer and a clock. I got to go next. It allows me to coach multiple athletes across the room. And as you noticed, we had two different groups doing different things. One group would be front squatting, one group would be doing the complex, two different timers. And then, oh, by the way, we also had our baseball team in there getting their big squat Thursday in as well. So we ran 3 groups in there pretty efficiently in about 30 minutes time.
Yep, everybody was managed to the point where they knew where they needed to be and what they were doing and what groups they were in. And one of the most important things in the weight room is you've got to manage all these different variables. You're managing the clock, you're managing the program, you're managing the athletes, you're managing the weights and the equipment,
or like this morning when the chocolate milk comes in, and you got to manage that delivery too.
Yeah. So the more you can free yourself up to just coach, I think the more effective you can be as a coach. If you've got to, like you said, watch the clock and make sure that everybody's doing this, and you got to manage this over here and this over here, and you're also kind of delegating within those groups, like, hey, you need to be watching out for the other guys in your group, and before you started everything, you gave out 3 or 4 specific cues, so everybody not only knows what they need to do, but then they also know how to coach their teammates. So I thought that was really is another way to manage things globally, so that you could focus specifically on when an athlete was not in an ideal position, whether their feet were kind of turned out or whatever the case may be, you could kind of holler over there. You could walk up and say, hey, make sure we're doing this and this and this. And then when I first started, I wanted to rattle off 10, 20 different cues, and then you end up with paralysis by analysis, because they're like, whoa. But sticking with the big stones or with the important things,
absolutely,
then that frees you up to walk around the room, and you can target things a little more specifically that way. So I really like that.
Yeah, that's cueing is obviously a hot topic, and that's something that I've tried to be better at, because I'm the same way around. Shoulders back, knees out, knuckles down, chest up, and then by the time you miss a rep,
yeah.
And so you try to keep your cues to 2 or 3 words. Ideally, if you could just say one word, toes. They know, boom, fix your toes. Knuckles down, that to me is better. And then obviously, try to fix when they're in. You want to give them kind of a roadmap prior to, but then once they're in it, try to fix one thing at one time. I don't know if I did a very good job of that today or not, but yeah, try to pick that one thing. Hey, fix it on this set. Next set, maybe try to fix something else. So it's not chest up, butt back, knees out. 8 different things. And they just look at you like,
yeah,
because they are freshmen. They're different animals.
For sure,
they're different animals altogether. But with any level of athlete, the more simplistic you can make it, the more success I think they're going to have. And I think sometimes we jargon things up, or we complicate things to make ourselves feel like we're
a little more important or special.
Exactly, than what we really technical. Are. Yeah. So simple cues and to the point, I think go a long way with all athletes.
Yeah. The other thing I really appreciated was the emphasis wasn't on how much weight. The emphasis was on task competency first, and then task completion. Like, do it well, and then get your reps in.
Yeah, and that's the other big thing, and I tell our guys all the time, you're not going to impress me with how much you lift. I've been around some of the strongest guys out there, and so my view of strength is skewed, number one. So number two, your 300-pound bench or 500-pound squat, yeah, it's impressive, it's good, but no one in there is going to impress me. And so, it takes the pressure off of them, because I remember when I was their age, I wanted, hey, coach, watch this.
Yep.
Trying to hit those 2 plates for the first time, or 3 plates, or whatever, whatever it is. And, but yeah, we definitely have a movement first philosophy, which again, I'll never forget. I did my first clinic talk was at Baylor. and we talked about our middle school program. I was at the middle school at that time, and one of their coaches on staff, I won't name who it is, but they came up to me and was like, "Wow, coach, I thought it was going to be a bunch of, hey, look how strong this kid is and that kid is," but it was a lot of body weight movements, kettlebell movements, and that made me feel good, because again, we all tend to judge a book by its cover, and you think somebody like myself coming from my background, wants to hang their hat on strength, and I don't know if you noticed, but our record boards aren't even up right now.
Yeah, walking past that, I was like, oh, there's no numbers up there.
Yeah, there's no numbers, and we're getting. I'm not gonna say we don't test, because I feel like having benchmarks is important, but that's not where we hang our hat. You heard me say that they're not rolling bars and weights on a basketball court or football court, on Friday night. They're not doing that. And at the end of the day, they have to be great movers. They have to be great athletes. Yeah, it's a piece of it, but that's not the only piece. And it wasn't always like that here. There was a time where we hung our hat on how strong we were. But those are some of our worst performing seasons. Because again, we're not going to powerlifting meets.
Right.
If we were, then heck yeah, we're gonna be okay. But it's football, it's baseball, it's basketball, it's track. Those are athletic movements, and so being able to make that bridge. You talk about making that connection between the field and the weight room. That's huge. Because there are going to be kids like myself who are really, really strong and couldn't play a lick, and then there's going to be kids who can't lift the barbell but are tremendous athletes. And so you got to keep the main thing, and that's improving their ability to perform whatever sport it is they're playing. So I think that's huge. Yeah, we're not hung up on numbers. We are gonna have a couple benchmarks, but I think those type of numbers can be a crutch sometimes. Because you're unsure with how you're programming, and you're unsure with the effectiveness of your program. And so you have to test to satisfy that need as a coach. Okay, we are getting stronger. I can look at a kid and watch their movement pattern and watch the way they move a weight and very quickly determine, hey, you moved that better than last week. Or that didn't look very good. Like our freshman Thunder group, they're struggling right now off the floor. And so one of the other things that I learned from Frank, a little saying or whatever, is, don't load dysfunction. Allow them to work through it, with a safe, manageable load. But we don't want to ingrain bad movement patterns. But so many people, hey, it's the end of the season, whatever season it is, football, whatever, got to test them. Why? Number one, it should be a time of regeneration and recovery, and number two, they're not ready for it. So that was a mindset that I had to change when I got here. Is, hey, season's over, we're not going to test. We're going to go back to some block zero foundational movements, give them a chance to recover from a season that started in June with summer training. And it's hopefully December, so you got 6 months of playing, and give them a chance to recover, regenerate, and re-energize. And then after that 2 or 3 week period, now we can get after it. But again, don't burn the steak. They want to come out the gate, turn that heat all the way up. You're going to burn it. You're going to burn it. So slow cook them. But you have to have confidence in your coaching ability and your training style to be able to do that. And I think that's where having somebody who's competent in your weight room, somebody who's qualified, who's certified, who that's what they do, goes a long way.
For sure. So that's a perfect segue into the question I was going to ask next, which is because you have to manage all of these things, because you have these specific, unique responsibilities, where does the role of continuing education and in certification, where does that fit in?
I think it's vital. That was the first thing that I did, even before I got hired as a strength coach, was I took, back when USAW had 2 certifications, a club coach and sports performance, I took both of those on my own. Nobody paid for that. It was on me. I took the USA Level 1 and Level 2. USA Track and Field Level 1 and Level 2. Then I took my CSCS. So I had, and not this, and don't misconstrue what I'm saying here, that you have to be certified to be a great coach. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that those certifications legitimize your knowledge base, and they give you a foundation for the programming you're doing, the advice that you're given, because there are going to be situations where you're going to be challenged. And there are going to be situations where if someone's going to question, well, hey, why are you doing X, Y, Z? Well, then you can go back to, well, because I learned it under this program, this certification course. And not all certifications are the same. That's where you have, and I'm not going to tell you which one's better than the other, but you have to make that decision based on your philosophy and your beliefs. But I will say, if you're doing Olympic lifts, you better get Olympic lifting certified. You know, and the other more practical reason being, you can hurt a kid for life in that room. No one's going to get injured taking a math test. You know, and so we require our teachers to be certified. But yet, when they're in a situation to where physical harm can be done to them, we just let whatever coach design and implement and run that program. It doesn't make sense to me. And that's why I think that it's crucial, it's vital, and that's really kind of become my platform as a professional, is to be a resource, to be a sounding board for coaches who maybe don't have somebody as qualified. You know, don't be afraid to reach out. Don't be afraid to learn and to educate yourself as a sport coach if you're the guy in the weight room or girl in the weight room. You know, here in North Texas, we have coaches roundtables that started off in the summer by Jeremy Weeks. And then since he's moved on, we've kind of kept that legacy going and evolved that into, now we do winter roundtables. And it's a chance for anybody. It's driven by strength conditioning, but we want any sport coach, anybody who works with high school athletes, to come to that, to learn, so that they are better equipped in the weight room. You know, and it just goes back to having somebody with a prerequisite knowledge base, programming and designing training for our kids to keep them safe. You know, because at the end of the day, I mean, that's somebody's son or daughter. And again, if you're not qualified, whether you mean to or not, you could be doing some really serious damage to their bodies.
For sure. Yeah, it's so tempting to call equipment in the weight room toys. Like I'm guilty of that. But like you said, there is inherent risk. There is danger. Being weak is also extremely dangerous, right? So
weak things break.
Yes.
We have a saying around.
Yes.
Again, Coach Lou, you know, weak things break. You know, and it goes back. That fits in well with our philosophy of improving, you know, maximal strength and doing that safely, progressively, and systematically. You know, but yeah, you know, being weak is bad.
Yeah.
You know, it's not good.
It's hard to be athletic if you're weak.
Tell me about it. It's hard to be athletic when you're strong too sometimes. but you know, and that's why I think as a coach, if you're working with athletes, you have to train. I don't believe that you have to be able to perform every movement your athlete's doing. I don't think you have to run the program that you do before they do it. Again, I think that goes back to insecurities in your competency. If I have to test run a program before my athletes do it, then maybe I shouldn't have programmed that in the first place. You know? So you don't necessarily have to, I don't think, you know, you don't have to be able to do all that, but you do need to understand how it flows together. You need to understand, hey, after heavy squats, a heavy good morning or a heavy pull may not be the best for our guys, you know? Or you got to understand that if we go outside and do our sprint mechanics first, the sprinting, that I'm probably not going to, do some heavy stuff under a barbell because I may not get the desired effect I want.
Yeah.
So you've got to have some common sense about how to piece the puzzles together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that comes from training, but also I think it comes from having again a certain competency academically, I guess you would say, from a pedagogical background. That's Coach Hollywood, everybody.
Yes, sir. Hey, Coach Mark, throw this over there for me. I know you. Thank you, sir.
You never know who's going to pop in. You never know who's going to pop in. Look, yeah, Coach Hollywood.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's a good dude, really good dude. So certification is important.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it goes a long way to legitimize what we do when you have a process to I guess earn the right to do the job.
Yeah.
Because so many people are armchair strength coaches, just like
Mm-hmm.
they're armchair sport coaches. Well, hey, well, I like to work out, so I can do that. And unfortunately, that's how that role gets delegated a lot of times, is the coach on the staff who likes to work, or the biggest, strongest coach. Okay, well, hey, you're the strength coach. Well, this is what I did back in college, or this is how I train now.
Yeah.
And so they think that that's what their athletes need, when in fact it could be the opposite, or they're completely different. And so that's why I think you have to have some type of educational background to make sure that you're providing your athletes the safest, most effective experience possible. Because heaven forbid, something happens in your weight room under your watch, and then you have to justify why you did what you did.
Yep.
And there are all those cases out there, unfortunately, where it hadn't ended well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's vital. It's vital that you have that background.
For sure. Yeah, there's got to be a barrier to entry, and because you don't want just anybody doing it.
Yeah.
So the risks are there, and a lot of times they're a lot higher than we sometimes think or assume they are. So
Absolutely.
having that barrier to entry, I think certification is a good, it's a good minimum. For sure.
And I think that's a good way to put it. It's a baseline.
Mm-hmm.
It's a baseline knowledge base. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to be the greatest strength coach in the world.
Right.
No more than being a certified teacher means you're going to be teacher of the year.
Cool. Yeah.
But it does give you, again, that minimum barrier
mm-hmm.
to be able to do it.
Mm-hmm. No, I think you're exactly right there. The differences at that point are going to be how much time you spend, on your own, continuing to learn other things, and picking other coaches' brains and interacting with other professionals, other strength coaches, people kind of who are also in the realm of sport performance but may not necessarily be the strength coach or serve in that role. People like exercise scientists who are kind of in the trenches of the research area. Physical therapists, athletic trainers, there's a whole lot of different bubbles that overlap when it comes to athletic performance.
And that's the thing, and you bring up another good point, is that you can't be the expert in everything. Mm-hmm. And that's what I tell new coaches or coaches looking to get in this profession. Is find one thing and be really, really good at it. Make that your niche.
Mm-hmm.
For me, obviously, it's maximal strength development. For somebody else, it might be speed development. It might be movement. But then you better have this network of coaches around you where you can draw and pick from and say, hey, what do you do here?
Mm-hmm.
How do you handle this? Or what does this look like? Because you've got to have all those parts in your program.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't know everything.
Right.
Again, another quote by Joe Ken he says, he starts everything off by saying, I know what I know, and I know what I don't know. And so you better know what you know, and then know what you don't know, and you better have a resource, to call on, when you have questions about that, And again, we're very fortunate here in North Texas that we've got a tremendous base of high school strength conditioning coaches who are very giving and open, and that's another thing I love about this profession is I can pick up the phone and call somebody who may be one of our opponents and say, hey, how do you address this, or what does this look like?
Mm-hmm.
And they're an open book, because at the end of the day we want to do what's best for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And having that network and having those resources, I think are vital. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call somebody, because they just might pick up,
Yep.
And then it's like, okay, coaches, good coaches want to share.
Mm-hmm.
Good coaches want to share, and at the end of the day, none of this stuff is new. We think that we're inventing this new system, or we think that we're inventing these new movements, and they've been around for 50 to 100 years before us, and so everything's stolen. That's what I tell people all the time. None of this stuff is mine. It's stolen from somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, coaches want to share, so don't be afraid to reach out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. A previous guest said that he likes to steal with his eyes.
There you go.
So he sees what other coaches are doing. He's like, okay, I think that can fit into my program here. This is an obvious weakness in my programming, so I'm going to take that, utilize that, make my program stronger. But that's the thing. If you don't ask, then, or if you don't know what other coaches are doing, then you're going to have gaps. So
yeah, and what do they say? The worst phrase is we've always done it this way. And I almost do that to a fault, and a part of it I feel like I've got undiagnosed ADD, but I'm constantly trying to evolve and change and differentiate and have variety, because I feel like if I don't, then I'm falling into what we did this way last year. It worked last year, or it worked 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And so it's almost to a fault. I have to be careful because every week can be completely different. But I do think it's important to be progressive, and to not get set in, hey, this was a great training session, or hey, this was a great program. Boom, let's just press play again. There's always something you can tweak, always something you can modify to make that better.
For sure. So, not to put you on the spot, but what are you learning right now?
Learning RPR. RPR is on my mind. And I was fortunate 2 weeks ago to go to the track football consortium that was in Dallas, and I highly recommend that. It's a plug for Tony Holler, but also for Chris Corfist. Chris is a big part of RPR with JL, and that's on my mind right now, and trying to, first of all, understand it and kind of wrap my mind around it, but then be able to implement that holistically within our program. And so I haven't taken the course yet, but I'm researching it, and I'm trying to, again, I'd like to have a good general knowledge, to be able to know what questions to ask before I just go into it cold, and then 3 weeks later, man, I should have asked this, I should have asked that. So I'm trying to build a base, with that, and again, figure not only for my own training, but also for my athletes to figure out how we can take advantage of it, because I think there's something there. I'm just not sure. I'm not sure what yet.
Right.
So that's probably the biggest thing from a training standpoint right now is RPR. We're starting track season, so speed development's on the forefront of my mind too. So Brian Kudla, who trained Christian McCaffrey, he spoke at that conference, and so the underground running secrets, and I can't remember who wrote it, but anyway, that's another book with regards to speed development that I've been diving into and trying to steal from.
Nice.
So, and then on top of that, the 5 dysfunctions of a team. Yeah, that was like 3 days. What did I wrote down? Where are they at? Where's the question? Oh, yeah. 5 dysfunction of a team, death by meeting. That's another big one. Which really, okay, so death by meeting, I'm thinking that they want to do away with meetings and they want to, that's not it at all. It's just how can you make your meetings more productive?
Yeah.
And then the third book that I haven't read yet is How to Be an Ideal Team Player. So that's coming. So different books that aren't necessarily on training, but can be very impactful
For sure.
within our group. So yeah, those kind of the big things right now.
So there's a little bit of like coaching philosophy, management type stuff, and interpersonal relations and interacting with people. Like we're in the people business, so you've got to be social. You've got to be able to interact effectively, and communicate well.
Absolutely. Somebody said a long time ago that customer service. We're a customer service profession, and as much as we want to think that these athletes are ours, and that they're our world, it's just a small piece of their athletic experience. And so we have to remember that when we're talking with sport coaches, when we're talking with parents, and doctors, teachers, etc. We're just a small cog, even though we think that we're the biggest cog.
Yep.
But so trying to diversify my knowledge, not just from a training standpoint, but also from that interpersonal management concept as well.
Yeah. I think like early on in my career, I didn't even think about any of that stuff. That was not even a priority. It was all just, I need to know more about the human body.
Content. Yeah.
And then I think that's probably pretty similar for most people in the industry, is you get enough of a knowledge base there that then you're like, okay, I understand that. There's still a lot I don't know, but I at least understand enough to be effective at what I do. Now, how else can I be effective? And it's like, oh yeah, I've got to communicate. Like I've got to get better at that. And then so there's all these other aspects that, a lot of times now when I talk to coaches like about what they're learning, sometimes I'm learning about, I'm relearning the mechanics of the ankle, or I'm learning this, and it's like, okay, that's really awesome. It tends to get really specific,
right?
But then it's also, I'm learning how to, think about things from a business perspective, or from this angle, so that I can be more effective as a leader, or more effective as a team member. So I think that's super beneficial to not get so locked into like tunnel vision, where it's like, okay, it's just human physiology. It's just,
Well, because you can be a great biomechanist, you can be a great physiologist, but if you can't have a conversation with Johnny on the street, or Sally bringing Junior in, then you're not going to have a business.
Yep.
Or if I can't relate to my athletes simply, hey, this is why we're doing this, or better yet, a sport coach who says, well, hey, why are you back squatting and not front squatting, or why do you do Olympic lifts? I need to be able to tell them, well, I do this because of X, Y, Z, and here's how it benefits your athletes. Oh, okay. Well, I still don't agree with you. And then you got to be able to come back and say, okay, well, excuse me, how do you problem solve through that and still be able to get what you want, but also satisfy their request? Because again, at the end of the day, if you can't work with that sport coach, they're going to say, well, hey, I don't want this guy or girl. I'll figure it out on my own.
Yep.
And that's not obviously beneficial for either party, because you're going to be the subject matter expert, and you want to work with those athletes.
Yep.
But if you can't communicate with that coach, then both of you lose.
Yep. Yeah. And the kids especially.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's who ultimately loses in that situation, is those athletes. And again, I'm in it for the kids. And I think most coaches are in it for the kids. And so sometimes we got to check our ego a little bit. And even though it may not be exactly what we want to do or how we want to do it, at the end of the day, we're serving that that coach, and so we got to find a way to make it work.
Yep.
And if you are competent, you do have a lot of tools. You can do a lot of smoke and mirrors and still get what you want.
Yes. There's always another way.
Because you know more than they do.
Yes. There's always another way to get the job done.
Exactly.
You know,
and that's where you got to have a big tool belt.
Yeah.
That's where you've got to have more than just one way to do it.
Yep. That's for sure. That's so true. So, someone out there wants to follow you or contact you. What's the best way to do that?
I'm on my phone way too much. My wife lets me know that daily. So Twitter at Monte Sparkman, Instagram at Monte Sparkman. Those are the best ways to probably get a hold of me. And then I've got no problem giving my cell phone out. And we can text or text. And I mean, I text way too much. But that's the easiest. That's the easiest way to communicate a lot of times. But yeah, I mean, I'm an open book. Again, everything's stolen. Nothing I have is top secret or revolutionary. I wish it was, but we're pretty basic and simple in how we do things, and I'm pretty simplistic in my own way. Just because I haven't had. Okay, this is another tangent. Number one, I think everybody should be a middle school coach. They should coach middle school athletics. You got to figure out how to not only organize your sport with 80 athletes and one coach, but also organize a training experience with one coach and 80 athletes who are a huge gamut of abilities.
Yeah.
Some of them can't walk and chew gum, and some of them are,
Yeah, the differences in physical development at that age can be huge.
Or unreal. And so I think everybody needs to coach middle school.
Yeah, if you can coach middle school, you can coach anything.
You can coach anything. You can coach anything. And we have it wrong here in America. We put our least experienced coaches with the wrong athletes.
Yeah. We
need our most experienced coaches to be with our developmental athletes.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody can go coach Michael Jordan. Anybody can coach Usain Bolt.
Mm-hmm.
We need qualified men and women at that level, really giving our young kids the best chance for success.
Mm-hmm.
So, where was I going with that? Oh, you lost me. How about that? We're talking about how to get a hold of me, right?
Yeah.
And then I went on about coaching. But yeah, shoot me a DM, shoot me a message or whatever on Twitter, Instagram. Twitter's tend to be more professional. Instagram's kind of my own lifting.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, if I can be a resource or if I can help, you as a coach, number one, I will. But I'm probably going to learn more from you than you are from me, just because, I'm always looking to try to get better and to try to improve, and I don't have all the answers. And if I can learn, then I'm all for it.
That's one of the things that a guy that I really appreciate, his name's Jordan Peterson. He's a clinical psychologist, but he says, go into every conversation assuming that the other person has something to teach you. Because if you don't,
absolutely,
if you go into it like I know everything I need to know, and this isn't a conversation, this is an interview or something like that. If you do it that way, then things tend to fall apart pretty quickly.
Right.
But yeah, so I love that. And I'm guilty of not doing that sometimes, but it's a good reminder.
Oh,
so,
absolutely.
Absolutely. Every conversation you have, you can always learn something too. So that's good stuff, man.
No question.
So, let's round it out. What's something that anybody watching or listening needs to hear? A piece of advice, a quote. How would you close this out?
I think we got to close it with how we started. That's get stronger.
Yeah.
Strength fixes a lot, and each one of us has a unique story. Each one of us is going through something, and can benefit from more strength. And it might sound cliche, but but I really believe that we all can benefit from getting just a little bit stronger. Don't be afraid to fail. Take that first step. Just a couple quotes that come to mind. One from Frederick Douglass, and it goes back to my middle school days, and I love it. It's easier to build strong children than repair broken men. And I think that's true in this day and age when, again, our children need powerful, influential, strong, not just physically strong, but emotionally strong adults in their lives. And at the high school level, I feel like we can have a huge and tremendous impact in these young people's lives. And but we got to give them a fighting chance. And that comes with giving them a strong foundation in work ethic, in discipline, in consistency. And I think they all can benefit from that. And so, we have to be there for them. And so again, just setting them up for success is crucial. And then the second quote I read in a Dave Tate book, Under the Bar, about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, and that was from Socrates. Is that how you say his name? Socrates? Name's from Bill and Ted. Socrates. And that's, it goes to the effect of let him who would move the world first move himself. And I think that's, it's hard to give advice. It's hard to make an impact when things aren't right in our lives. And so we have to do a lot of self-maintenance. We have to do a lot of self-upkeep. We have to do a lot of cleanup in our lives before we can be that pillar for somebody else. Because if we're fractured and we're trying to support somebody else who's fractured, then we're both going to fall. And so, I'm a big believer in trying to, as best as we can, address the and fight the demons in my life so that I can be supportive and be a pillar for somebody else. And again, I think it starts with us. We have to take care of us. And I think it's even more important in this day and age when everybody wants to grind and everyone wants to be beast mode and everybody wants to brag about how much they're not taking care of their bodies because they're only going to sleep, for 4 hours, or they're waking up at 3 and they're waking up at 4 in the morning and grinding until midnight or whatever. Like, look at me. No, I mean, you're going to break. You're going to break, and then you're not going to be nearly as effective as you would be if you would just take care of your body, take care of you. And it's not about how much work; it's about how smart the work, how smart you are doing the work. I tell people all the time, I don't want to outwork you. I want to outsmart you. Work smarter, not harder. And not just with programming and stuff, but in my own life. And I'm not perfect. Again, these are things that are daily battles. But at the end of the day, I have to take care of me so I can be there as a coach, as a father, as a husband, and as a coworker. And I think if we do that, then I think we're going to be more able to help the ones who need help. And I think lastly, don't be afraid to ask for help. Again, in this day and age of me, I look at me, social media, me. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to make that phone call, because again, a person just might pick up. And we all are in the spot that we're in because somebody else poured into us. Somebody else took a chance on us. And somebody else helped us out. And so don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for, whether it's programming, whether it's, things going on at home, whether it's, whatever it is, have somebody you can call, have somebody in your network that will listen to you gripe and gripe and gripe and gripe and then say, hey bro, I love you. And, because that's huge. That's huge. We're not in this alone. And in this profession where it can, it chews people up and spits people out all the time, and so we have to be able to withstand that. And again, I think, we can't do that alone. So
For sure.
So don't be afraid to reach out.
Sure, I don't think I have anything to add to all that. That pretty much covers everything.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for allowing me to come and have this conversation with you. I really appreciate it. I've learned a lot. I know everybody watching and listening really enjoyed it or will enjoy it. So
if not, just hit delete. It's okay.
Yeah, just keep swiping
yeah.
Move on to the
But
next
hey, be
thing.
sure to like it, share it.
That's right.
Thumbs up it.
Yes. Do all of that.
Hit the subscribe button.
Yes, I always forget to say that.
Yeah.
So
Hit
thank
the
you.
subscribe button. We're gonna put a link up here. Okay.
I'm not that technical. I don't know how to do all
well.
that. But there's a subscribe button.
There you go. Yeah, be sure to subscribe to my man Kevin. He came out, and again, I'm always humbled whenever somebody else wants to hear me ramble about strength and life and just things going on with me. So again, I'm humbled and I appreciate it.
For sure, man. This has been great.
So all right. Well, thanks so much.
For sure. Well, I'm sure we'll do it again in the future.
But hey, we gotta have round 2.
For sure.
We gotta have a sequel.
Alrighty, y'all. Thanks for watching and listening. And stay tuned for next week's episode. Adios.